Alrighty, the Penn State Blitz here on PennLive, Greg. Talking about the NFL Draft. Big weekend for Penn State. James Franklin's program, Saquon Barkley was the one of the feature attractions down in Dallas. I was there, got to see it unfold. But they had 6 players drafted overall.
Yeah.
I thought maybe they could have a couple more taken, but still really kind of shows how far this program's kind of come under James. The development, getting 6 and having a lot of people sign as free agents. And I think this is a sign of things to come.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be more like this every year. Maybe not. They're not going to have a guy go number 2 overall because that's pretty rare to do. But just your thoughts on, there was even a surprise in the 4th round with Troy Apke. Just your thoughts on kind of how the whole draft thing played out. And, when you look at Saquon, a lot of people thought he could go number 2. He might go number 4. Somebody might trade up and get him. When you look at it, Greg, how do you think this thing played out?
Yeah, I think I'd start with Barkley, of course. It's for a marketing and off-field perspective. He found the perfect home.
Yeah.
And from an on-field fit, who does he have to really worry about up there? He's the guy. And you put him with Eli, you put him with Odell Beckham, and some rebuilt pieces of the offensive line. It was terrible for New York a year ago. We've seen what Saquon can do with not the world's greatest offensive line. So you know that even if it's even marginally better than what it was a year ago, they should be set in New York. So a good spot for him. I think that he would have thrived wherever he went, but certainly I think it's better that he stayed away from Cleveland. I don't know if there's any question about that. But Mike Gesicki, the perfect home. I think we both were pretty clear with our thoughts that would be a good spot for him, and he ends up going there. So
Joe Hermit's team.
That's right. So we can't wait for the fall updates on the way home from the airport that you love so much. But yeah, so, and then Apke, that was the surprise of the draft, right? I thought that for Penn State's guys later in the draft, Bob, to go undrafted, I almost feel like that was better because you get to pick your favorite spot then, the spot that you were most likely to make a roster, as opposed to you go in the 7th round. That's great, you can say you were drafted, but it might not work out in your favor.
Yeah, for a while it looked like DaeSean Hamilton would really be kind of the surprise story when you consider how far he progressed from like the last month of the regular season with that big bowl game, and then he kind of just built momentum with his Senior Bowl performance, and then his combine showing, and then his pro day showing. He ran in the low 4.5s. He goes to the Denver Broncos in the 4th round, but really I kind of think the bigger story was Troy Apke.
Yeah.
I don't ever really recall a player making such a big jump from the start of his final season when he was largely unknown. We weren't even sure he was going to start or he was going to keep his job. I remember I was talking about Aaron Monroe.
Right.
You just didn't know. They paired him with Marcus Allen. A lot of people thought at the start of the year Marcus Allen would be the guy that might go in the 2nd or 3rd round of the safeties. It turns out that Troy Apke goes before Marcus did, Marcus goes to the Steelers in round 5.
Right.
But the Redskins take Troy Apke, and they're going to groom him, I guess, to play free safety. He runs the 4.34 in the combine.
Yeah.
Did you ever think at the start of fall that we could be talking about Troy Apke as a 4th round pick?
I didn't think it was possible at the start of Saturday. Honestly, when the pick came across the screen, I almost thought it was a mistake. No one had him going higher than maybe late 5th, early 6th. So to see him go there, you just have to assume that Washington thinks that his speed is something they can translate to being, his film is what it is. It's not necessarily terrible, but I don't know if he ever played as fast at safety as what he ran. That's essentially what the issue is, right? That he has this great speed, but has he ever played at that speed while playing safety? Special teams is a different story. He should be able to contribute there from day one, but that was a surprise to the draft for me.
Yeah, so DaeSean Hamilton went to the Broncos. I think that's probably a pretty good opportunity for him. He'll get to work with Case Keenum. They have some receivers who are getting up in age. A good opportunity for him. Christian Campbell, probably the most physically gifted of the Penn State defensive backs all the way around when you talk about running and jumping and all. He also had a good senior year. He goes to the Cardinals. The GM there, Steve Keim, is a Redland High School graduate from the Harrisburg area.
Yep.
The one of the players that didn't go in the draft, I guess I was most surprised that Grant Haley didn't go in any of the 7 rounds, signed a free agent deal with the Giants. But this was a productive player at Penn State, almost from the first day he got here, whether it was a special teams player, ran in the 4.3s. Your thoughts on maybe why he didn't get drafted?
I can only think size. It's really the thing I kept coming back to, the fact that he's just not the biggest guy. And it's not that he tests poorly, but he doesn't really stand out in any one area. So, I mean, to really think that he would be able to jump up into the draft, I think that there were just some other guys here that if you're taking a chance on somebody in the 6th or 7th round, I mean, like, that's why we thought Appy would get drafted. I still can't believe he went in the 4th round. But I think with Grant, he's a really productive player. I just don't know if he does anything star-worthy or really notable. He just kind of blends in, which is what it is. He was very reliable while, quote-unquote, blending in for Penn State's defense. So he has a good chance to make that roster. Yeah,
especially when you consider how he started his career at Penn State as a coverage team's gunner. He'll put that speed to good use, whether it's on kick coverage or punt coverage. I do think he's got a good shot, maybe if not to make the roster right away, maybe practice squad. I think he's definitely got the ability. A couple other guys who signed free agency deals, a couple of players I believe went to Oakland, and Saeed, Blacknall, and Cabinda. I thought maybe Cabinda had a chance to get drafted, albeit late. But the drought really continues at Penn State. They haven't had a linebacker picked in the draft. I think it would be the 2013 draft when Hodges and Mounty both went to the Vikings.
Mike Hall picked?
Mike Hall was a free agent.
Free agent, yeah. Okay.
He's a productive player with the Dolphins, but it shows how devalued kind of the linebacker position might be becoming. Not only at Penn State but everywhere. They're just not taking them as early as they used to, and you just wonder when the next linebacker at Penn State is going to get drafted, because Jason Cabinda, like Grant Haley, very productive players. Also, Brendan Mann went to the Panthers. Of all the guys that signed as free agents, I'm not talking about Grant Haley, who do you like best to maybe stick with a club?
Yeah, one guy you didn't mention that I don't believe will stick is Tyler Davis, the kicker. He went to Buffalo. Hey, it's a good opportunity. He'll get a paycheck for a couple months. What more could you ask for?
I think you used the term camp leg.
Yes, that's correct. For Stephen Hauska, yes. In terms of the guys besides Grant Haley that I think will stick, I think Blacknall finds a spot in Oakland. I mean, the kid just tests off the charts, Bob. He has some of the most freakish testing numbers for his size, and he's just never put it together on the field. In college, I just have a feeling he's going to do it in the pros. He'll be my pick.
Yeah, I think Brendan Mann's got a chance as he continues to kind of round into form. He was really good in 2016 for Penn State, and then he had, I think, a medical issue that prevented him from playing the final month of the season. They moved him to guard last year, and I thought he got better as the year went on. I'm sure he probably viewed as a guard on the pro level, but he's got some versatility. I think he's got a shot as well. I'm not sure what to think about Saeed Blacknall. I've never really been more confounded by a player
true.
At Penn State, a guy that averaged 20 yards a catch, and he played as a true freshman, but after he had the big game against Wisconsin in the Big Ten title game 2 Decembers ago, I thought this was going to be his coming out party in 2017. He gets beaten out by DeAndre Tompkins and never really gets the job back. So Oakland made some very interesting decisions with John Gruden in his first draft. I think obviously he's a talent and he has a chance to stick, but when you get signed as a free agent, you're going to have to play special teams. I don't think that's anything he did very well at Penn State, so I think he's a long shot.
Okay.
We'll have to wait and see.
We shall.
Do you have any recruiting news, by any chance, Greg Pickle, to share with us? There was some news that did not go Penn State's way with a verbal commitment from the Harrisburg area, but there's also some other news where they're trying to line up a visit to a guy that's a really good running back.
Yeah, so, I mean, the news of the weekend, really on the recruiting front, was not that Noah Cain, the 4-star from IMG Florida, the running back, visited campus. It was that Andre White picked Texas A&M. I mean, talking about a Harrisburg kid right in Penn State's backyard, 3-star, probably soon to be 4-star linebacker, pretty long kid, 6'3". I think he's checking in about 230 these days, maybe a little bit less. But he's a guy that Penn State was pegged as the favorite for months now. It was almost a question of when he would commit, not if. Most thought he would follow Micah Parsons and Damian Barber to State College, but you almost get the sense that he wants to blaze his own path, that he doesn't want to be in their shadow any longer. And because of that, the question that many people asked immediately was, well, how long does it take till Penn State flips him from Texas A&M? And look, I mean, I don't know if Texas A&M is his final destination. Right now, it looks like it's going to be. Whether it is or not, we'll see. But whether whether he goes to College Station or somewhere else, I just got a weird vibe that Penn State is not the spot for him. So we'll have to wait and see how it all plays out.
Jimbo Fisher works his recruiting magic the former Florida State coach at Texas A&M.
Yep.
I think it caught a lot of people by surprise. Just so the fans know, when we talk about White, he is an emerging talent. You know, you said he might actually get that 4-star, but he's not quite in the same classification as, say, Micah Parsons.
No, not. I mean, few are, quite honestly. But the thing with Andre White is that he's a guy that went out to the opening regional in San Francisco, competed well against what's a pretty good group of linebackers out on the West Coast that obviously aren't considering Penn State. They're considering the schools out that way. But he won an MVP award out there. He's tested well everywhere he's went. USC has offered, Cal has offered to sort of give you an idea of some of the schools that are after him. And he committed about 6 hours into his first trip to Texas A&M. So we'll see how it plays out.
What do we need to know about Noah Cain, the running back that they're looking at, trying to get that visit 4-star? How big of a talent is he? What type of back is he?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that, you know, he sort of fits right into the line of the Ricky Slades of the world, and, you know, not the biggest guy you're ever going to find, but Penn State's obviously shown that it doesn't need a huge running back to work in Joe Moorhead and now Ricky Ronnie's offense. So I think that for Penn State to get him on campus over the weekend, you'll try and get him on campus again sometime down the road. And one other thing to keep in mind, we'll talk about it on the Blitz a little, about 2 weeks from now, but Devin Ford, the 4-star running back out of Virginia, and the guy that visited for the blue-white game on unofficial, he is going to decide May 18th. Virginia Tech, Penn State, the two front runners there.
It's camp season. I know it's your favorite time of the year where you get to go to camps in weird parts of the country.
That's right.
Takes up your weekends, your Saturdays and Sundays. That won't be the case this week in the Kentucky Derby.
Yep.
But this is the Penn State Blitz, and we're not going to ask you for your horse racing pick. Is there any comments or questions, though, from the fan base right now?
Well, Ron McLean checks in. His son Chris graduates on the 5th, and he's a Penn State and a Giants fan, so he's happy.
Yeah.
But he has no question. So I have one for you, and we are going to talk about it. He does not have a question, but Bob, your Kentucky Derby thoughts?
Again, like I do think we just watched the draw as we talk about this, and I know this is a Penn State football production, but I am a big believer in Justify, and I'm kind of fascinated with Good Magic, a horse that's 12-1, drawn well. But this is one of the more exciting Kentucky Derbies, I think, that have kind of come down the pike. There's a lot of unbeaten horses. You got Mendelssohn, you got Audible. I know you like Magic Moon or Magna Moon. Something with a moon in it. But
That's right.
I'm going to go with Justify right now, but I might change my mind and go to Good Magic. How about you?
All right, I am going to go with Audible. You are correct, at least at this point in time. I want to watch a few
We're
more
definitely
replays,
going to change our minds.
Yeah, Mendelssohn's on my radar, too. That's an interesting horse there. All right, final question for you. Your favorite spring riser, now that the draft's in the book, spring practice is in the book. Who's the one guy we spent, 4 straight weeks in State College for practice?
Right.
We watched the blue-white game. Who's the one guy that caught your eye over the course of the last month and a half?
I think I have a couple players I think that really are going to be key contributors in the fall. Start on the offensive side. I think Michael Mehnat kind of finally delivered on his promise. I think they really will take a long look at him to start. And the fascinating thing with that, Greg, is if Michael Mehnat starts at right guard, it means a really good player is going to sit if everyone's healthy.
Right.
They have 3 tackles they like. In Chaz Wright, Ryan Bates, and Will Fry. So you can only play 2 of them, and if you're going to play Mehnat inside, Bates can play inside as well. One of those guys is going to be on the bench, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for Penn State.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. It's a swing tackle that you can trust. That's a good problem to have. He's one. I think Nick Scott at safety is a player that has kind of earned the coach's trust. I think he was very productive in spring, showed off his athleticism, showed his ability to kind of cover. Some of the practice availabilities we got to, you saw him close and make some plays, intercept some of Trace McSorley's throws. And a third player that I think the fan base knows about, but I think is really close to becoming a dominant player in the Big Ten is Kevin Givens.
Yeah.
From my point of view, whenever Sean Spencer praises somebody and goes out of his way to praise somebody, because he's got a lot of athletes who can play, but the first name out of his mouth from the defensive line was Kevin Givens. He said versatility is really important with him, and he said he's kind of starting to become a little bit more like Anthony Zettel, who was a breakout performer in 2014. Those are my 3 guys. I think all 3 of them are going to play big roles for Penn State in the fall.
All right, Bob. Well, there you have it. No more questions, so it's off to the Kentucky Derby.
Kentucky Derby Saturday is right around the corner. I hope you guys win some money.